Tonight we're going to look at the power of a parent or a role model. The power of a parent or a role model. Proverbs chapter 4. Last week we looked at how to simplify your life decisions. And that's an important thing. Life is so busy, it goes so fast that often we get caught and we say, I don't know how I got in the situation I'm in. You can simplify your life decisions by making the important ones first. And when we fail to consider where a path leads, we often, as we talked about last week, we paint ourselves in a corner. Where all of a sudden now, for you younger people, what I'm talking about is, the door is over there in the corner, and we want to paint the floor. But if we start painting over by that door and we start painting this direction, what's going to happen is that there's no way to get back out of the room without there being more doors. When you paint yourself in a corner, it means you got yourself in a corner and there's no way to get out without getting junk on your shoes or getting stuff on your clothes. Well, we do that in our lives quite often, where we don't think about what's going up. We're just busy, and all of a sudden we've lost our choices. We're stuck, and we have choices now that we wish we didn't have, and we don't have choices that we wish we would have had. So last week we looked at 6 things to help our decision making. And you can always go back and you can look online and you can get the notes for that. But so tonight we come back to Proverbs chapter 4, and we're going to do just a very brief review on one verse, and then we're going to be jumping into some new material, some new thoughts. Let's look at verse 7 together. Wisdom is the principal thing. Therefore get wisdom, and with all thy getting, get understanding. Remember, Solomon was talking about what he had learned from his parents. Solomon was saying, I learned some things from my parents, and one of the key lessons that he learned was wisdom is the principal thing. You've got all these things in life. You have finance, you have fame, you have popularity, you have renown, what you're known for, you have family and relationships, and of all the things, he says wisdom's the most important thing. And wisdom's the most important thing because from wisdom flows all those other things. Now, Solomon was in a unique position because, remember, God said, tell me what you want. And remember, he could have had money, he could have had anything he wanted, and what did Solomon ask God for? He said, Lord, I don't know how to make decisions for all these people. I don't know how to make these decisions, so I ask for wisdom, and God says, because you ask for wisdom, I'm going to give you all these other things. Solomon understood the importance of wisdom. Now, so let's think about this. What is the power of a parent? The power of a parent is you get to point to what's important. Parents get to point to what's important. Now, wisdom is the ability to understand what you see. Everyone sees, and even some people observe what they see. But understanding what you see is unique. So later, Solomon says, a wise man sees trouble coming and hides himself. Everyone saw the trouble coming, but only a wise man understands that's trouble. Now, I don't know how many YouTube things we have watched, and always, or even before they get into it, we say, oh, that's not going to end well. You ever seen videos like that where the guys are all together and they're going, hey, watch this? You know, we always laugh because we think that's the reason why women live longer than men is because guys get together and say, hey, watch this. And all of a sudden, it doesn't go well. Well, that's exactly what Proverbs is talking about. He says, there are so many people out there that say, hey, watch this, but they don't see what's going to happen. But a wise person can see and understand what's happening. By inference, a fool sees the same thing, but doesn't see the trouble and gets caught unprepared. So what can a parent do to prepare their child or their children for life? What can a grandparent do to help prepare their child or their children for life? What's the greatest gift you can give your children or your grandchildren? Solomon had a beautiful mother. Solomon had a politically powerful father. What did he learn from his parents? Get wisdom. Put all your efforts into being wise. Now, his parents could have talked about popularity. Hey, here's how you need to dress. Here's what you need to do. Here's how you can be popular. Or, here's how to be politically astute. Here's how you can work your way through the power grid. But in all the things that his parents taught him, Solomon says, here was the thing. Get wisdom. Son, you got to get wisdom. Anybody can make a living. But you're going to need wisdom. You see, parents could have talked about anything else, and it would have been very natural to drift into those areas. Instead, I'm going to use a very specific word here, instead they intentionally pushed him toward the gift every person can have, but most people overlook. Every person can make a living. Therefore, finances are not the greatest gift we can give to our children. Depending on values, a child may or may not be popular. You know, when they see the trouble coming and they hide themselves, there are going to be some people that don't think you're cool anymore because you're not doing what everyone else is doing. So depending on values, a child may not be popular. Now, the dictionary says wisdom is the quality of having experience, knowledge, and good judgment. Wisdom is the ability to understand what you see. So Solomon learned what was valuable from his parents, knowing how easy it is to become distracted by the less valuable. They regularly reinforce the importance of him pursuing the most important. Son, remember this. Think about this. Most importantly, how do you really get your family to get on board with what you're doing? And that is, we begin to model. You know, as parents and grandparents, we can't make our children be wise. That's a little terrifying. We can't make our children pursue wisdom. So what can you do? Here's practically a couple things I want to challenge you with. First of all, you can keep it before them. You can keep wisdom before them. Second of all, you can draw their attention to it. Thirdly, you can model its importance so that when they are asked what's important in life, they will say, wisdom. And as children and as adults, let me challenge you with this, and that is, if your parents and those who are over you can't make you be wise, if they can't make you make decisions, remember this, you can't blame other people for the decisions you make. That's been a classic mistake that's been made since the Garden of Eden. The woman you gave me, the serpent made me do it. And the answer was no, each person is responsible for their own decisions. You get to choose, and choosing is a very powerful thing that you can have, but it's also very personal. You're responsible for the choices you make. Now, everyone has different things that pull them. Some people are pulled because they want wealth. Some people are pulled because they want relationships. They want to be accepted. Some people are pulled because they want to please other people. But I want to challenge you, beware, especially those of you in high school, those of you who are out on your own, and you're pretty free. You can do what you want. I just challenge you with this. The freedom of choice is an incredibly wonderful choice. It's a wonderful gift that you have, but beware, because you're responsible. You're going to be responsible for how you choose to live. I've been out of high school long enough now to look back and see people who were making choices in high school, and it has now led them to a certain location, to a certain place in life. Just understand you're free to choose how you will live. You're free to choose where you're going to spend eternity. But you do need to know you will be held accountable for your choice. You can't choose to live like Satan and wickedness is good, and then when you die, expect God to say, oh, it's okay. Because remember, God loves you, but God is holy. And heaven wouldn't be heaven if he lets sin into heaven. Second thing I want you to notice, that was verse 7. Let's look at verses 11 and 12, and I want us to look at confident parenting. Confident parenting. We looked at the power of parenting, and now confident parenting. I have taught thee in the way of wisdom. I have led thee in the right paths. When thou goest, thy steps shall not be straitened. When thou runnest, thou shalt not stumble. I want you to notice here the point that he's making, and that is confident parenting is parenting that has been intentional parenting. As Solomon taught his children, he could say, I have taught thee in the way of wisdom. I have led thee in the right paths. Because of his intentional teaching and modeling, he could confidently tell his children they have what they need to do well in life. Parenting is hard work. It's not hard to biologically have children because it's a gift from God. But parenting is very difficult because it takes intentionality day after day after day of modeling what you need to model. But because he was intentional, he could confidently say, I've led you in the right paths. I've given you the information you need. You can go out and be successful. You can't make your children do it, but as a parent, and I know each of you would feel the same way, you want to give your children every opportunity to be successful. So not only is it intentional parenting, but it's relieved parenting. I did my best. I taught you how to gain wisdom, and I have modeled right path living. And because of that, you can be relieved because you've given them what they need to be able to do their best. You've given them what they need to be successful. You don't have to be sidetracked in life. You don't have to be caught off guard. You know, when his children were young, Solomon focused on giving them what they genuinely needed. It is also educational parenting. Teaching where to get wisdom and how to get wisdom is the summation of true education. If you teach your children where to get wisdom and how to get wisdom, then they have all they need to begin that life journey for themselves. And I want to just challenge you with this, because we're watching our society. When our school system shut down, what happened to our society? We found things did not go well. We have begun, in fact, we have become a nation that depends on other people to raise our children. You have many helpers, but ultimately, the ball's in your court. If you teach your children where to get wisdom and how to get wisdom, they'll have all they need to begin the life journey for themselves. They may have to go to YouTube or Google or something on a regular basis to figure out how to do something. I'm amazed now how many things you can be so specific and just say, how do I fix this kind of refrigerator? I want to fix this, or I need this. I need to figure out how to repair this part. How do you change the oil in this? And you know, you can look it up. It tells you. But it can't tell you how to have wisdom. I would encourage you, you can have many helpers, but since the ball's ultimately in your court, choose your helpers carefully. And don't rely on others to teach life purpose. I'm grateful that there are people in the world that could help my children with things, to be honest with you, I'm just not good at. But character is not one of those. So the key question here to ask is, what do you need? What do you need to do to set your children going the right direction? Or what do you need to set up yourself for life. You see, there is this big question, the big choice is, what do I need to truly live? Look at verse 13 with me, and there we read, take fast hold of instruction, let her not go, keep her, for she is thy life. So what is parenting? What can't it do? Good parenting does not guarantee good results. But good parenting requires intentional actions. Think about this with me. The best father ever could not make his children be wise and make the right choices. Genesis chapter 3. The best father could not make his children be wise or make the right choices. But what can parenting do? God gave them the information they needed to make right choices. God put them in a good environment, and he provided proper nutrition and gave them unconditional love, but they were still free to choose. He made sure that they had the information that they needed. He took time every day to spend time with them and impart his wisdom. You start thinking about that. What an incredible role model. If you want to know how to parent, if you'll read what happened in Genesis chapter 2 and Genesis chapter 3, you'll recognize, oh, hey, here's an easy way for me to just do a mental checklist. Am I doing what my children are going to need? If you're a role model, say, I don't have any children. If you are a role model, here are the things you can give to somebody. You can help them with their environment. You can spend time with them. You can impart wisdom to them. The lesson about parenting from Genesis 2 and 3 is priceless, but we still see the reality of a free will. That's the terrifying part of being a leader. That's the terrifying part of being a parent. As frightening as it seems, parents cannot make their children make right choices. You can't make your children do right. But real parenting teaches values. Make sure your children have the information they need to make right decisions. That's the responsibility of the parent. I want to make sure that I give my family members what they need. Then they have to make those choices. So let's think about this for a moment. If the test of your parenting is not the result, but the process. Should I say that again? The test of your parenting is not the result, but the process. So I would ask this question to each of us tonight, whether it is parenting or grandparenting or even in leadership roles, how intentional are you? What are you choosing to teach? And how often are you teaching it? Here's the thing I just want to dangle before you because Satan wants to distract you, and that is this. The window for teaching is very small. The window for teaching before they begin choosing life decisions is very small. Take the opportunities you have now to prepare them for eternity and for life. The older we get, and as our business life settles down, as grandparents, we seem to have more time to sit down and talk to our grandchildren, but grandparents are not the same as parents. And you say, I don't know how to keep everything going. I would just encourage you with this. Last week I challenged you, the very first thing is, so that you don't get overwhelmed with all your decisions, make the most important decisions first. What's your number one goal in life? What's your number two goal in life? And make sure those stay before you. God gave you your children. God gave you your spouse. God gave you your family. Stay focused. because you don't really know how long you're going to have. Daniel's parents had no idea. Well, they had some idea because the troops had been gathering around the city. But Daniel's parents, I don't think they were thinking, we've only got another year left. They probably knew the captivity was coming. They didn't maybe think that they would all be slaughtered and that their son would be taken. But what they did in Daniel's life radically changed who he was. To you children, to you young adults, listen to what you're being taught. It is for your life. Let me challenge you, do what you do on purpose. Do what you do on purpose. Be intentional. These days pass very quickly. As clear as if it were yesterday, I can remember sitting in a room that had bear borders on it, little stuffed teddy bears on the wallpaper. And I can remember sitting in the room with a little bitty boy in a crib, wearing corrective shoes to fix a foot problem. I can remember as clear as day singing with him as he went to sleep. That man today has his own children, pastors a church, and lives uber far away from here. We talk on the phone, but that window of that kind of parenting is gone. When you trade those times, make sure that you do it intentionally, and make sure you don't trade them often, because someone's going to step into that role. I just talked to a dad just this morning. We were talking, I said, so how's your baby doing? He said, doing great. And I said, so are you guys both back to work? And he said, yes. Now, I'm not saying it's wrong to go work. I'm not saying it's wrong for both parents to work. What I am saying is make sure you mean to trade the time, because someone's going to teach that little person what the values of life are. You can't make your children do right, but it really is comforting when you can look back and say, I've taught thee in the way of wisdom. I've led thee in the right paths. I haven't been able to give you thousands of dollars, but what I can give you is wisdom to know how to live. Wisdom is the ability to understand what you see. What kind of person will you be? What kind of person will your children be?